My brother threw away my business cards. Then his boss called me the owner. I dumped my bag onto the kitchen counter, already running late for the networking event downtown. My hands shook as I reached for the stack of business cards I'd ordered specially for tonight. 500 pristine cards with my name embossed in gold. They were supposed to be my ticket into the marketing world I'd been dreaming about for years. But when I opened the compartment, my stomach dropped. Shredded pieces of cardstock littered the bottom of my bag like confetti. I grabbed the trash can nearby and found the rest, torn systematically into tiny squares. My brother Marcus stood in the doorway, arms crossed, that infuriating smirk plastered across his face. "You did this," I whispered, barely containing my rage. He shrugged. "Relax, Samantha. They're just paper. You weren't going anywhere with those anyway." My hands balled into fists. Those cards had cost me 2 weeks of grocery money. Tonight's event was supposed to connect me with executives from the biggest firms in the city. Now I had nothing to show for myself except anger and a bag full of destroyed dreams. "Why would you do this?" I demanded. Marcus laughed coldly. "Because you need to stop pretending you're someone important." The next morning at my office job, I couldn't focus on anything. My coworker Bella noticed me staring blankly at my computer screen for the 3rd time that hour. "You okay?" she asked, leaning over the cubicle wall that I forced a smile. "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was furious and hurt. Marcus had always been competitive, but this felt different. This felt like sabotage. He'd been bragging lately about his connections at Sterling Industries, one of the largest consulting firms in the region. He acted like he owned the place just because he worked in their IT department. Meanwhile, I was stuck doing data entry at a small insurance company, dreaming of breaking into marketing. Those business cards were supposed to be my fresh start, my way out of this boring routine and into something meaningful. I pulled up Sterling Industries' website and browsed through their client portfolio. The work they did was exactly what I'd studied for. Brand strategy, market analysis, creative campaigns. Everything I was good at but never got to use. Maybe Marcus's arrogance could somehow become useful to me. I didn't know how yet, but the seed of an idea started forming in my mind. Saturday afternoon, I decided to escape the apartment and grab coffee at the shop near Marcus's office building. I needed space to think, and maybe the change of scenery would help me figure out my next move. I was stirring sugar into my latte when someone bumped into me from behind, sending foam splashing onto the counter. "I'm so sorry," a deep voice said. I turned to find a tall man in an expensive suit, looking genuinely apologetic. Something about him seemed familiar. "It's fine, really," I said, grabbing napkins. "Let me buy you another one," he insisted. As we waited for my replacement drink, he introduced himself. "I'm Thomas Brennan." My eyes widened slightly. I'd seen his photo on Sterling Industries' website just days ago. He was their senior vice president of client relations. We fell into easy conversation about the neighborhood, and when he mentioned dealing with a challenging rebrand for a retail client, I couldn't help myself. I shared insights from a case study I'd analyzed in college, suggesting an approach that focused on emotional storytelling rather than product features. Thomas's eyes lit up with interest. "That's brilliant. Are you in marketing?" Before I could answer, Marcus walked past the window and spotted us. His face went pale, then red. He rushed inside. "Sam, what are you doing here?" His tone was accusatory. Thomas looked between us curiously. "You two know each other?" "She's my sister," Marcus said quickly, his voice tight. "Samantha works in insurance." He said it like it was something to be ashamed of. Thomas nodded politely, but I could see the gears turning in his mind. He'd been impressed by my ideas, and Marcus's dismissive attitude only made that impression stronger. That night, I couldn't sleep. The coffee shop encounter kept replaying in my mind. Thomas Brennan had listened to me, really listened, in a way no one at my current job ever did. He'd valued my perspective. I spent the entire weekend researching Sterling Industries and their current projects. Their website mentioned a struggling account with a boutique hotel chain trying to attract younger travelers. It was the perfect challenge for the strategies I'd been developing in my spare time. I opened my laptop and started working. By Sunday evening, I had a 10-page proposal outlining a complete marketing overhaul. Social media campaigns focused on experience over luxury, partnerships with local artists and musicians, a loyalty program that rewarded adventure rather than spending. It was bold, creative, and exactly what they needed. The question was how to get it in front of Thomas without seeming desperate or weird. I couldn't just email him randomly. That would look unprofessional. I saved the document to my cloud storage, the same platform Marcus had convinced me to use months ago for easy file sharing. He'd set up a shared family folder we barely used at an idea sparked. A risky, slightly devious idea, but desperate times called for creative measures. Monday morning, I uploaded my proposal to a folder labeled Project Ideas within our shared storage. I made sure the permissions were set so anyone with access could view it. Then I waited. Marcus was careless with his work files. He complained before about accidentally opening personal documents when searching for work stuff because everything synced to the same account. I was counting on that carelessness now. 2 days later, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Is this Samantha Hayes?" Thomas Brennan's voice was warm but professional. My heart hammered. "Yes, speaking. I stumbled across your hotel rebranding proposal in a shared drive. I have to say, I'm incredibly impressed. Strategic thinking is exactly what we've been struggling to develop internally. Are you consulting for us?" I paused for only a second. "I've been exploring opportunities with Sterling Industries, yes." It wasn't exactly a lie. I had been exploring opportunities, just not officially. "Well, I'd love to discuss this further. Would you be available for lunch this Thursday?" "Nothing formal, just a conversation about your approach." I agreed, my mind racing. Marcus would be at that office. He'd see me there. But Thomas clearly thought I was already involved with the company somehow, and I wasn't about to correct him just yet. Thursday arrived with clear skies and my best professional outfit. I met Thomas at an upscale bistro near Sterling's headquarters. He'd brought another executive, a woman named Patricia, who headed their creative division. They asked questions about my background, and I answered honestly about my education and my passion for marketing. I carefully avoided specifying my current employment, letting them assume what they wanted. "Your hotel proposal shows remarkable understanding of millennial and Gen Z consumer behavior," Patricia said, reviewing notes on her tablet. "Have you worked with hospitality clients before?" "I've studied numerous case studies in that sector," I replied. "I believe the key is authentic connection rather than manufactured luxury." Thomas nodded enthusiastically. "That's exactly what our client needs to hear." The lunch was going perfectly until Marcus appeared in the restaurant. He was with colleagues, and his face went through several emotions when he spotted me: confusion, anger, fear. He excused himself from his group and approached our table. "Thomas, hey. I didn't know you were meeting here today." "Marcus, good to see you. We're just having a strategy discussion with your sister. She's remarkably talented." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Right. Well, Samantha, you know, she doesn't really have much practical experience. Mostly theoretical knowledge." I felt my face flush, but Thomas just smiled. Sometimes a fresh perspective is exactly what practical experience needs. Her ideas for the hotel chain are innovative precisely because they're not constrained by the way we've always done things. Patricia added, "We need more voices that challenge conventional thinking." Marcus excused himself quickly, but not before shooting me a look that promised confrontation later. The rest of the lunch went smoothly, but Marcus's interruption had planted a seed of doubt I could see in Thomas's eyes. As we walked back toward Sterling's building, he asked carefully, "What's your current role, Samantha?" "I realize we've been discussing your ideas without really understanding your availability." This was it, the moment where I could either come clean or dig myself deeper. "I'm currently in a transition phase," I said, which was technically true. "I've been doing analytical work, but I'm ready to move into strategic marketing where I can have real impact." Thomas seemed satisfied with that answer. "Well, we're always looking for talented people. Why don't you sit in on our team meeting this afternoon? Consider it a trial run. You can see how we operate, and we can see how you think on your feet." I should have said no. I should have explained the misunderstanding. Instead, I heard myself say, I'd be honored. The conference room was full of Sterling Industries' marketing team when I walked in with Thomas. Marcus was there too, his face pale as he saw me take a seat at the table. Thomas introduced me simply as Samantha Hayes, who's been developing some breakthrough strategies for the hotel account. The team welcomed me politely, and the meeting began. They discussed various client challenges, budget concerns, and creative roadblocks. I listened carefully, taking notes and observing their dynamics. When they reached the hotel chain discussion, Thomas turned to me. "Samantha, would you mind sharing your perspective?" I stood and walked to the whiteboard, my hand steadier than I expected. I outlined my proposal, explaining how experiential marketing could transform the client's brand perception. I drew diagrams showing customer journey maps and talked about leveraging user-generated content for authenticity. The room was silent when I finished. Then Patricia started clapping. That's exactly what we needed. Someone to think outside our usual framework. Thomas beamed. "Samantha, you're a key player in turning this account around. I think we should get you more involved in the strategy development." Marcus slouched in his chair, and I caught him staring at me with disbelief. His little sister, the one whose business cards he destroyed, was being praised by his boss while he sat silently in the background. I came home that evening exhausted but exhilarated. My mind buzzed with possibilities. Thomas had asked me to send over additional ideas by the end of the week. They were treating me like a valued consultant, and I'd somehow become central to a major project without ever formally joining the company. Marcus was already home, pacing in the living room. The moment I walked in, he exploded. "What the hell are you doing, Samantha? You don't work at Sterling. You're lying to my boss." I set down my bag calmly. I never lied to anyone. Thomas made assumptions, and I provided valuable insights. That's not dishonest. You're making me look like an idiot. I'm the one who works there. I'm the one who should be getting recognized for bringing in good ideas. You're just swooping in and stealing credit for my connections. His entitlement was astounding. Your connections? Marcus, you destroyed my business cards because you couldn't stand the thought of me succeeding. Now you're angry because your sabotage backfired. He stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. You need to tell Thomas the truth. Tell him you're not qualified, that you don't belong there. I met his gaze steadily. I belong there more than you do. They value my ideas. They respect my thinking. That has nothing to do with you. Marcus grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I stood in the quiet apartment, my heart pounding. I knew this wouldn't end well, but I couldn't stop now. Not when I was finally getting a taste of the career I deserved. Over the next 2 weeks, my involvement with Sterling Industries deepened. Thomas invited me to client calls and brainstorming sessions. I met with the hotel chain executives directly, presenting my strategies with growing confidence. They loved everything I proposed. Patricia pulled me aside after one particularly successful presentation. "You have a gift for this, Samantha. Have you thought about joining Sterling full-time?" "I'm definitely interested," I said carefully. She smiled. "Let me talk to Thomas about creating a position for you. We need this kind of innovative thinking permanently on the team." I was building real relationships now. The other team members sought my opinions and included me in their discussions. I felt like I'd found where I belonged, but I was also acutely aware of the ticking clock. Eventually, someone would ask about contracts, payment, or official onboarding. Eventually, the truth would surface. I just needed to make myself indispensable before that happened. Marcus avoided me at the office, but I could feel his resentment building. He would sometimes whisper to colleagues when I passed, and once I overheard him say something about external consultants who don't understand our culture. Marcus's behavior became increasingly erratic. He started showing up wherever I was in the building, lurking near meeting rooms I'd be using. Twice, I caught him trying to access the shared folder where I'd stored my proposals, probably hoping to delete them or find something he could use against me. I'd moved all my important documents to a private folder by then, but his desperation was obvious. During one team lunch, he tried to intercept a conversation I was having with a junior designer, pulling the designer aside and speaking to him in hushed, urgent tones. The designer looked uncomfortable and excused himself quickly. Later, he approached me privately. "Hey, just so you know, Marcus was asking weird questions about whether you actually work here officially." I told him I didn't know anything about that. My stomach tightened. "Thanks for letting me know." "For what it's worth," the designer added, "your ideas are amazing. I don't care what your title is." But titles mattered. Employment status mattered. And Marcus was clearly building up to some kind of confrontation that would expose everything. The explosion came during a routine project update meeting. We were reviewing timelines and deliverables when Marcus suddenly spoke up. "I think we need to address something." Samantha isn't actually employed by Sterling Industries. She's not on any official payroll or contract. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to me. Thomas set down his pen slowly, his expression unreadable. "Is that true, Samantha?" he asked calmly. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. "It's true that I haven't signed formal paperwork yet. I've been contributing as an external consultant, developing strategies and providing insights on a project basis." Marcus scoffed. "External consultant? She's my sister who works in insurance data entry. She has no real experience, no client history, nothing." Patricia frowned. "Marcus, that seems unnecessarily harsh." But Thomas held up a hand, his gaze still on me. "Samantha, why didn't you clarify your status earlier?" This was it, the moment where everything could fall apart. I took a breath and decided on honesty, or at least a version of it. "Because I was afraid you wouldn't take me seriously if you knew I was still trying to break into the industry. But everything I've shown you, every strategy, every insight, that's genuine. That's who I am professionally, regardless of what my current employment status says." Thomas leaned back in his chair, studying me. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Marcus looked satisfied, like he'd finally won. Then Thomas spoke. "You know what I see? I see someone hungry enough to prove themselves that they created an opportunity where none existed. That takes initiative and confidence, two qualities we need more of around here." Marcus's face fell. "But she lied." "She didn't lie," Patricia interrupted. "She provided excellent work and let us draw our own conclusions. Maybe we should have asked more questions earlier, but her contributions have been invaluable." Thomas nodded. "I agree. Samantha, your situation is unusual, but I'm more interested in results than credentials. You've demonstrated strategic thinking that exceeds most of our current team. I'd like to formalize your role as an external consultant for now, with the possibility of a full-time position if this project succeeds." I could barely breathe. "Really? Really? We'll draw up a contract this week. Your rate will reflect the value you're bringing to the hotel account." Marcus stood abruptly and left the room. No one tried to stop him. Patricia caught my eye and smiled, and I felt a surge of vindication so powerful I almost laughed out loud. After the meeting, Thomas asked me to stay behind. Once everyone else had left, he closed the conference room door. "I want to be completely honest with you, Samantha. What you did was risky and unconventional. In most situations, it wouldn't have worked." I nodded, my professional mask slipping slightly. "I know. I was desperate for a chance to show what I could do. I respect that desperation. It drove you to create something remarkable. But moving forward, I need transparency. Can you commit to that?" "Absolutely," I said without hesitation. He smiled then, the stern executive demeanor softening. "Good. Because I see real potential in you. You think differently than people who've been in this industry for years. Sometimes that fresh perspective is exactly what we need to break through stale patterns." Over the next month, Thomas became an informal mentor. He included me in high-level strategy discussions and introduced me to other executives. He taught me about client management, contract negotiations, and office politics. He seemed genuinely invested in my success. Meanwhile, Marcus became a ghost in the office. He avoided meetings where I'd be present and stopped engaging with team discussions entirely. I almost felt bad for him, almost. Not everything went smoothly. 3 weeks into my consulting arrangement, a miscommunication nearly derailed the hotel project. The client had expected a full digital campaign launch by month's end, but I'd understood the timeline differently. They were furious. Thomas called an emergency meeting. "Samantha, they're threatening to pull the account. We need a solution fast." My mind raced. I couldn't let this failure define me after everything I'd built. I spent that night redesigning the entire timeline, creating a phased approach that would deliver immediate visible results while buying time for the larger campaign. The next morning, I presented the revised plan to the client directly. I take full responsibility for the confusion. Here's what I'm proposing. A soft launch in 1 week featuring social media activations and influencer partnerships. This generates immediate buzz while we perfect the broader campaign. I'd also secured commitments from 3 micro-influencers I'd contacted personally, offering them complimentary hotel stays in exchange for authentic content. I show the client mock-ups of what that content could look like, The client's CEO studied the proposal, then looked up at me. This is actually better than our original plan. More dynamic, more responsive to market reaction. Thomas looked relieved and impressed. After the call, he pulled me aside. Quick thinking like that is why I took a chance on you. You don't just identify problems, you solve them. The hotel campaign launched to immediate success. Within 2 weeks, booking inquiries increased by 40%. The client's social media engagement tripled. Industry publications started covering their transformation as a case study in effective rebranding. Sterling Industries' internal newsletter featured my work on the front page. Thomas publicly credited me in a company-wide email as the driving force behind our most successful account turnaround this quarter. Colleagues I barely knew started approaching me for advice. Junior team members asked if I'd review their proposals. Even Patricia mentioned me in a client pitch as an example of the innovative talent Sterling attracted. I was becoming known, respected, valued. Marcus watched all of this from the sidelines, his resentment practically visible. During one company lunch, I overheard someone mention how Marcus's brother, they'd gotten our relationship wrong, was doing amazing work on the hotel account. Marcus didn't correct them. He just pushed his food around his plate in silence that I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt a complicated mix of satisfaction and sadness. This was what I'd always wanted, but the cost was my relationship with my brother. Was it worth it? Then I remembered him standing in our kitchen, smirking as he told me I'd never be important. Yes, it was worth it, but Marcus wasn't done fighting. 2 months into my consulting role, he made a bold move. He scheduled a meeting with Thomas and came armed with evidence, screenshots of my current employment at the insurance company, my lack of formal marketing certifications, and a timeline showing how I'd infiltrated Sterling Industries. Thomas invited me to join the meeting. Marcus looked shocked when I walked in. I think we need to discuss Samantha's credibility, Marcus began, spreading his documents across the table. She's been misleading everyone about her qualifications and experience. Thomas glanced at the papers without much interest. Marcus, we already had this conversation. Samantha's status as an external consultant is established and official now. But don't you see? She manipulated her way in. She used our shared storage to make you think she was already part of projects. It was all a calculated deception. I watched Thomas's face carefully. This was the moment of truth. Would he see me as manipulative? Would Marcus's accusations stick? Thomas sighed. Marcus, let me ask you something. When you first started at Sterling, did you exaggerate your skills on your resume? Marcus blinked. What? That's different. Everyone embellishes a little to get their foot in the door. What matters is whether they can deliver once they're inside. Samantha has delivered exceptional results. That's what I care about. Thomas turned to me. Samantha, I'd like you to present the hotel campaign results to our board next week. They're very interested in understanding how we achieve such dramatic turnarounds. My eyes widened. The board presentation was typically reserved for senior executives. This was a major vote of confidence. Marcus tried one more time. Thomas, I really think you should reconsider. Marcus, Thomas interrupted, his tone finally showing irritation. Your sister's success doesn't diminish you unless you choose to see it that way. Right now, your jealousy is becoming a problem. I suggest you focus on your own work and let Samantha focus on hers. It was a professional reprimand delivered in the politest possible terms, but the message was clear. Marcus had overplayed his hand. He tried to sabotage me and instead made himself look petty and insecure. He left the office that day looking defeated. Part of me wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap between us. But a larger part remembered every dismissive comment, every attempt to undermine me, and especially those destroyed business cards that I prepared for the board presentation with meticulous care, knowing this was my chance to cement my place at Sterling Industries permanently. The board presentation went better than I'd imagined. I walked them through the hotel campaign strategy, showing before and after metrics, customer testimonials, and revenue projections. I explained my philosophy about authentic marketing and emotional connection. When I finished, the board members asked thoughtful questions about scaling the approach to other clients. One of them, an older woman with sharp eyes, said, "We need more strategic thinkers like you. Have you considered a full-time leadership role here?" Thomas jumped in. "Actually, I'd like to propose exactly that. Samantha has proven herself as a consultant. I'd like to offer her a position as senior marketing strategist, leading innovative campaigns for our key accounts. My breath caught. Senior strategist. The title I dreamed about but never thought I'd achieve so quickly. I accept, I said, barely managing to keep my voice professional. After the meeting, Patricia hugged me. You've earned this, Samantha. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But Marcus was determined to do exactly that. Over the next few days, he became increasingly desperate. He sent emails to team members questioning my credentials. He tried to intercept client communications. Once, I caught him attempting to access my computer when I'd stepped away from my desk. His behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. The situation exploded in the most unexpected way. Marcus had drafted a long email to several department heads, detailing what he called my fraudulent infiltration of the company. He outlined every questionable choice I'd made, every assumption I'd let others make, every time I'd been less than fully transparent. He meant to send it privately to those executives. Instead, he accidentally clicked Reply All on a company-wide thread about an upcoming social event. 250 employees received his bitter manifesto about my supposed deception, but the email backfired spectacularly. Instead of exposing me as a fraud, it highlighted every achievement I'd accomplished. The hotel campaign was successful. The innovative strategies, the board's praise. Marcus's own words documented my rise from unknown outsider to respected strategist, and the tone, bitter, jealous, petty, made him look terrible. Several people replied to the thread defending me. One senior executive wrote, "Sounds like someone is threatened by talent and initiative." Marcus tried to recall the email, but it was too late. The damage was done, to his reputation, not mine. Thomas called me into his office that afternoon. I expected a difficult conversation, but he was smiling. I've been in this industry 20 years, and I've never seen someone accidentally promote a colleague's accomplishments quite so thoroughly. Marcus's public embarrassment was complete. The IT department manager spoke to him about professional conduct. Colleagues who'd once respected him now saw him as insecure and vindictive. His attempts to sabotage me had become the sabotage of his own career. That I maintain professionalism throughout everything. When people asked me about the email, I simply said, "Family dynamics can be complicated. I'm focused on my work." But privately, I felt a complex mixture of triumph and guilt. I'd won. Decisively, publicly won. Marcus had destroyed my business cards to keep me from succeeding, and instead, I'd succeeded beyond anything those cards could have achieved. Yet he was still my brother. We'd grown up together, shared a home, and once been close. Watching his humiliation felt both satisfying and sad. One evening, he came home late and found me in the kitchen. We hadn't spoken in weeks. He looked exhausted, defeated. "You got what you wanted," he said quietly. I turned to face him. "I wanted a chance. That's all I ever wanted. You tried to take that away from me." "I know." He slumped into a chair. "I was jealous. You were always smarter, more creative. I thought if I kept you down, I could feel like I was ahead for once." It was the closest to an apology I'd ever get from him. The company meeting that changed everything happened 3 months after the email incident. Sterling Industries had won a major new client, a national retail chain seeking complete brand transformation. Thomas was presenting the team that would handle the account. "Leading this project will be our newest senior marketing strategist, Samantha Hayes," he announced. "Samantha has demonstrated the kind of innovative thinking and strategic vision that will take this client from struggling to thriving." The conference room erupted in applause. Patricia stood and started a standing ovation. I felt my face flush with pride and disbelief, but Thomas wasn't finished. "I want to be clear about something. When Samantha first connected with Sterling Industries, we didn't hire her through traditional channels. She created her own opportunity through brilliance and persistence. That kind of initiative is what this company values." He looked directly at Marcus, who sat near the back of the room. "We don't need people who play politics or tear others down. We need people who build, create, and push boundaries. Samantha is the owner of the client strategy that saved the hotel account and will now transform our retail approach." The phrase "the owner" echoed through the room. People turned to look at me with respect, admiration, even awe. This was the validation I'd craved since those business cards were destroyed. This was proof that I deserved to be here. Marcus left the meeting early. I didn't try to stop him. That evening, I found Marcus packing a bag in his room. "Where are you going?" I asked from the doorway. "I requested a transfer to Sterling's branch office in another state. They approved it. I can't stay here and watch you succeed while I don't." I felt a pang of something. Sympathy, maybe. "Marcus, you could succeed too if you focused on your own work instead of undermining mine." He zipped his bag roughly. "Maybe, but I don't think I can separate your success from my failure. Not here. Not when everyone knows what happened." We stood in awkward silence. Finally, I said, "I'm sorry it ended this way." He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I'm not. You needed to win, and I needed to learn some humility. Maybe we both got what we needed." He left the next morning before I woke up. His room sat empty, and I felt the weight of everything that had happened. I'd started this journey with destroyed business cards and a desperate need to prove myself. Now I had a senior position, professional respect, and a fractured family relationship, but I'd done nothing wrong. I'd simply refused to let Marcus's sabotage define my limits. If that made me ruthless or calculating, so be it. I'd finally claimed the life I deserved. Over the following months, my role at Sterling Industries expanded. The retail client campaign launched successfully. I was promoted to Director of Strategic Innovation, leading a team of 5 talented marketers. Patricia became a close friend and mentor, teaching me the nuances of corporate leadership. Thomas recommended me for speaking engagements at industry conferences. I gave talks about unconventional career paths and the importance of creating opportunities rather than waiting for them. Young professionals approached me afterward, inspired by my story. One woman told me, "You prove that talent and determination matter more than traditional credentials." That's revolutionary. I didn't mention the destroyed business cards or the family conflict. Those details felt too personal, too painful. Instead, I focused on the lessons I'd learned about self-advocacy and resilience. The company culture shifted slightly because of my presence. Thomas started prioritizing innovative thinking over years of experience in hiring decisions. Other departments requested my input on their strategy discussions. I'd become someone whose opinion carried weight, but success came with loneliness. I'd sacrificed my relationship with Marcus to get here. Most evenings, I came home to an empty apartment and wondered if the trade-off was worth it. Then I'd receive an email from a client praising my work or see my team celebrating a campaign success, and I'd remember why I'd fought so hard. A year after everything began, I received a message from Marcus. He'd been promoted to senior IT specialist at the branch office. His message was brief: "Doing better here. A different environment suits me. Proud of what you've built, even if I couldn't say it before." I read it several times, feeling emotions I couldn't quite name. We'd probably never be close again, but maybe we could find peace with our separate paths. That evening, I attended a networking event, the same type of event I'd missed the night my business cards were destroyed. This time, I stood in the conference hall wearing a badge that read, "Samantha Hayes, Director of Strategic Innovation, Sterling Industries." A young woman approached me nervously. "I'm trying to break into marketing, but no one will give me a chance. Do you have any advice?" I smiled, thinking about how far I'd come. Create your own chance. Don't wait for permission to show what you can do. Be bold, be strategic, and never let anyone convince you that you're not good enough. She thanked me and walked away looking thoughtful. I watched her go, remembering the girl who'd opened her bag to find destroyed cards and shattered confidence. That girl had refused to give up. She'd turned betrayal into opportunity and sabotage into success. The destroyed business cards had been meant to keep me small. Instead, they'd freed me to become someone bigger than any card could represent. I was no longer waiting for invitations to prove myself. I was the owner of my own success, and no one could take that away.